everybody, so that's a good thing. Even though I have grown accustomed to seeing people that I don't see very often, which is a good thing. When I first started with the party in 22, this crowd here would have been extremely rare. It'd be probably about half of us. It'd be Kelly, me, and Terry, and maybe 2 other people. So, well, Linda would show up. So we would have, we have grown exponentially. We now have clubs in Midlothian. Do we have one in Waxahachie? Or is it just the?
It's just the party in
Okay.
Waxahachie.
All right.
And Ennis.
So, yeah, Ennis. So we have, like I said, grown exponentially. The support that candidates have now is a lot different than when I ran in 22, where it was just me. So, but I did receive more votes than any Democrat in the history of Midlothian. But the bar was extremely low. So, extremely low. So, anyway, thank you for everyone for showing up. These things are important. As we continue to become a presence, Republicans think, we're hiding under our rocks and that kind of thing, afraid to put signs out, afraid to let them know we're here. They know we're here now. So, and it's a lot because of the work, the tireless work of the hardest working chair in all of Texas, Kelly Blackburn. So, our sponsors, volunteers, and guests. None of this is possible without you. Volunteering is, I get voluntold. You all get to volunteer, so it's a little bit different. But we can't do this without volunteers, donations. Donations are very important. In fact, and I'm going to say this is kind of an unpopular sentiment, but true. James Calrigo does not need your money. He's good. So please, the local candidates need your money. So, and I mean, we really need to get in the habit of it being every month, $5, whatever, something. It helps, believe me. I've been there, and it definitely helps. So anything that you can do, like I said, James thanks you for your attention, but he doesn't even know that. Let's see. Brief overview of the event. This is kind of a meet and greet. We know some of the candidates. Just a little word, I'm gonna put you up on the game, as we say in Northeast Oklahoma City, is every meeting's a fundraiser. Every meeting is a fundraiser. So if you got it, I would black church you and start passing the hat, but I'll try to give you a warning before that happens. Our first speaker, Ms. Eckhardt, is a Texas State Senator representing District 14, a former Travis County judge, and Democratic nominee for Texas Comptroller. The state's chief financial officer. She's an attorney, lifelong public servant, and she has spent more than 2 decades in public service, including service as county prosecutor and 2-term county commissioner before becoming the first woman elected as Travis County judge.
Right here in the active center.
Oh my God.
Oh, okay. I was like, come on up. Her executive leadership includes balancing budgets, lowering taxes, and improving government performance, and leading through floods and wildfires. I don't have my glasses, so I'm still in denial that I need them. In the legislature, she has worked on issues including children's health care, access to higher education, disaster relief, and property tax protections for seniors, with focus on fiscal accountability, transparency, infrastructure, and economic opportunity. Ms. Eckhardt, please come bless us with a few words.
Okay, y'all. Robert's so right. I love me some James. I really do. I've been working with James for so long in the Travis County delegation. And you are so, so right. James is great. And James doesn't need your money. Y'all are doing the bravest work of Democrats in Texas. Our Democrats who are organizing in Ellis County, who are organizing in, Leon, who are organizing in the Hill, who are organizing in Fort Bend. This is the work, and y'all are it. The bravest people in the Democratic Party are sitting right here in this room. Absolutely. You are making it safe to be a Democrat. And frankly, you're making it safe for Republicans to stand up on their hind legs and say what my party is doing is wrong. So, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my race, but then I want to hear about what y'all are doing and how I can help. So, I'm going to put this water down for a moment because I know I'm going to end up sitting here. So, I'm running for Texas Comptroller. This is the most powerful state office that most people have never heard of. It's the Chief Financial Officer of the state of Texas. And it not only estimates the revenue and certifies the budget for the Texas legislature, the rest of the time, it is also the purchasing agent of every good and service in the state of Texas, as well as the tax collector for the state of Texas, and the economic forecaster for the state of Texas. Come on in. Literally join the party. So we have to have a watchdog in this position. We cannot have a lapdog for the rich and powerful. We've seen what's happened in the Attorney General's office, where Paxton completely weaponized that office, perverting, abusing our laws and our money to reward his friends and to punish his enemies. Don Huffines, who I'm running against, explicitly intends to do the same to the comptroller's office, using our money to reward his friends and punish his enemies. So this is a product of one-party rule. After 30 years of Republican one-party rule, one-party rule is not good for us, whether it's Republican or Democrat.
Right.
One-party rule, at its least, it breeds incompetence and inefficiencies. But at its worst, it breeds corruption. And we are now seeing the signs of late-stage one-party rule. We're seeing cover-ups. We're seeing bribes. We're seeing straight-up threats. And we cannot have that. We're Texans. Texans are fiercely independent. We're courageous, and we don't like to be told what to do, what to think, where to pee, or how to pray. Republicans or Democrats. We've had it with the bribes, the cover-ups, and the threats. This is what we have in common. We all want a home that we can afford. We all want to live in a community that's safe and welcoming. We all want a state government that builds prosperity that we can all have a hand in and that our kids can build on too. And we should expect a government, a state government, that invests our hard-earned tax dollars in Texans. And we keep hearing about budget surpluses, a Texas miracle, and a rainy day fund on track to hit $28 billion. And the real name of the rainy day fund is the Economic Stabilization Fund. Are we feeling economically stable right now?
No.
Are we feeling economically stable when public schools are closing all across the state of Texas from underfunding?
No.
Are we feeling economically stable when teachers are being villainized? Librarians are being villainized. When we're having to fight so hard for health care that we can afford? So we are the wealthiest nation in human history. That's not hyperbole, that's just a fact. The numbers tell you the story. We're also the second wealthiest state in the wealthiest nation in human history. So why is it that so many Texans are having to work so hard just to keep gas in the tank and food on the table? The second wealthiest state in the wealthiest nation in human history spends less on its citizens than almost any other state.
It's insane.
We are 45th for per capita spending on our citizenry. 45th, even though we're the wealthiest state, the second wealthiest state in the nation. We have more uninsured people in the state of Texas than any other state. How is that? Where is our money going? And that's why we must have a comptroller who is a watchdog for your money and not a lapdog for the rich and powerful letting it go out the back door. We deserve to have a comptroller who is going to honestly audit the voucher scam and tell the legislature and the people of Texas how 1 billion explodes to 5 billion and rakes out even more money from our already underfunded public education system.
That's right.
We deserve to have a comptroller who is honestly going to expose how our healthcare costs, people who have insurance, our healthcare costs are going up because the Texas legislature failed to expand Medicaid and the US Congress failed to extend the ACA tax credits. This isn't hyperbole, this is math. Direct results, expected result, predictable results. And we deserve to have a comptroller who is going to slap the hands of the big boys behind one-party rule when they're picking our pockets to give favors to their friends in the form of corporate tax breaks, no-bid contracts, and even subsidizing their own kids' private education. Because health, education, and prosperity are not just for the rich and powerful. In fact, the prosperity of the state of Texas is not just for the party faithful. It's for all of Texans. And that's why we need an independently elected Texas comptroller who works for us. That's what's intended under the Texas Constitution. What we currently have is a perversion of what the Texas Constitution intends. So, y'all probably, how many of y'all here know about Don the Hunt? Oh, that's music to my ears, man, music to my ears. So y'all all know, this guy believes that power is something that you buy, not something that you earn. He already bought himself a Texas Senate seat, but he only held it for one term because his constituency found out pretty quick, this guy's never served anyone, doesn't intend to serve anybody. So he got beat by my good friend, Nathan Johnson. Then he tried to buy himself the governor's mansion by running to the right of Governor Abbott, and he got beat. More recently, you may know, he secretly purchased the Epstein Ranch in New Mexico. And he thinks he's already bought this race because he's self-funded and he doesn't have to answer to anybody. But we're gonna beat him with your help. Because if he will hide the truth in a ranch in New Mexico, he will hide it in the comptroller's office in Texas. We cannot have a crony comptroller. We cannot afford that. So a little bit about me, you heard a little bit about where I'm from. I'm not a MAGA millionaire. My funding, I'm not self-funded, my funding comes from people all across the state of Texas. I have no connection to the Epstein class, thank the Lord. But I am battle tested. As a county judge, I managed billions in public assets and cut taxes 3 times and still delivered necessary, crucial public services to the constituents, including a courthouse on time and under budget, under extreme duress. I managed the pandemic response, not just for my county, but in collaboration with surrounding counties, Republican counties. We had half of the mortality rate in our area of Texas than the rest of Texas because of our coordinated response to the pandemic. What happened during that pandemic is the governor kept shutting down on my orders. He kept raking out my orders, but the orders that we put in place in Travis County and the surrounding counties, the constituency did them anyway because they trusted us, that we were putting out good information, honest information, truthful information that kept them safe and gave them agency and decision-making in what they were going to do from day to day to keep themselves safe. Literally saving lives. As a prosecutor, I held people accountable. and nobody was above the law. Bob and I worked together a little bit back in those days. And as a senator, I have worked really, really hard on tax policy. I love tax policy. I'm just that kind of nerd. And I've worked really hard to make sure that we had good tax policy regardless of party. I actually worked with the lieutenant governor because even a broken clock is right twice a day. And he actually had a couple of good ideas on tax compression. More to the point, one of his minions had a good idea. and I helped on that because it was a good idea. And that's what a comptroller is supposed to do. Manage our public assets, hold people accountable so that nobody is above the law, and also make sure that we are invested in Texas and that we treat everyone with dignity and fairness. My opponent is not likely to do that. He wants to doge Texas. What that means exactly, we're not totally sure, but we do know that he means to suppress the revenue, suppress further any expenditure on Texans, and he is a believer in the monetized solution, which means that he's a believer in survival of the richest. And so we cannot have that. We must fight against this. We've got a really clean slate over on the Democratic side, but we have a super dirty ticket over on the other side. We can win. We can flip a statewide state race this time. James may flip a federal, but we've got to flip a statewide state position. We must do it, not just for the Democrats, but for all of Texas. We must break this one-party rule. 30 years is too long, and it's now having really, frankly, deadly consequences. So, I want to hear from y'all what y'all's questions are.
Yeah, one question about the voucher program.
Mm-hmm.
Is it legislated that it's gonna grow from 1 million to 5 to 7 million by 30?
Yes, the legislative budget.
That's legislated already?
It is. So when the bill passed, and I argued against it on the floor of the Texas Senate, it was anticipated and is included in the legislative history of the bill. The Legislative Budget Board did the fiscal note on the bill, and in the fiscal note, it says by the 2031 legislative session, the likely cost of this piece of legislation will go from 1 billion to 5 billion. Because of the presumption in the legislation that every child who's on the waiting list would be funded in the subsequent biennium. So yes, it's in the bill and in the legislative intent that the price tag quintuples in as many years.
Devastating.
It is. It is absolutely devastating to public schools. And this is not a mistake. This is baked in. So what the comptroller can do, the comptroller who administers the program, if I am comptroller, we will audit the daylights out of that program. I will faithfully execute the law, even though I don't like it, but I will also analyze the impacts of this law and this fiscal hit on our public education system, showing the legislators the unsustainability of it financially, but also the policy disaster it will be to public schools, which is a Texas constitutional mandate. It's not optional to fund public education in Texas. It is a constitutional mandate that our forebears in Texas lost their lives and spilled blood to put into the Texas Constitution. I'm a 6th generation Texan, and my German forebears, one of their big deals for coming to these shores was to have free and universal public education. That was one of their major reasons for coming
This
Yeah.
wonderful year, this blue wave comes in, which we're all hoping and praying for, right? We sweep everything. Is that a cancelable piece of legislation?
Well, all legislation is cancelable. What will happen, our best case scenario is that I win comptroller and we also win the Attorney General's office, Lieutenant Governor, and the Governor's office. But even if I just win comptroller, the fact of it is most of my colleagues in the Texas legislature do not like the voucher program, Republican or Democrat. The Republicans were forced to vote for it under pain of drawing a challenger and getting booted out. It's not a profile in courage that some of my Republican colleagues bent the knee on vouchers to save their own political careers. Leave that aside. I know firsthand that most of the legislators know that this is not a good piece of policy and it will ruin us. My colleagues, Republican or Democrat, know that we have bought down the property tax rate to the tune of $81 billion with a surplus that's not going to continue. And we can't afford to let this voucher program add another $5 billion to $81 billion of property tax compression. It is financially, the math just doesn't work. And any of my reasonable colleagues know that.
Huff Hines wants to zero out property.
Huff Hines wants to zero out property taxes, the M&O portion, M&O education portion of the property tax, yes. And he's even bullied the governor into also talking about zeroing out property tax. That is a fantasy. That's not possible unless you want to completely
It's a
wreck.
lie.
It's a lie. It's just a straight up lie. And most of my colleagues know that. So when I win, most of the Republicans are going to be relieved. There's a bunch of Republicans that are going to be really happy that I won. Because then they can point to the comptroller and say, you know, God, I hate Sarah, but she's not wrong. I mean, her numbers track. They need a Democrat in the comptroller's office to speak the truth so that they'll have some cover at home. We've got Republican legislators all across the state of Texas who have superintendents in their districts saying this cannot continue. And y'all know this. In most parts of Texas, the only governmental entity that the community really trusts is their school district. I mean, politics, whatever, where they'll show up, where they'll give money and time, where they're really invested, is actually in your school district. And so we're seeing legislators all across the state, Republican legislators, who know we can't get rid of the M&O property tax. That's crazy. And we can't let vouchers go to $5 billion, not to mention the fact most of those vouchers are going to private schools in where? Houston and Dallas. I mean, how many private schools are here? There's some charter schools that they don't get the voucher.
76% of the vouchers were the people that already were in private school.
That's correct. That's correct. And the reason why it balloons so rapidly is because it's built into the bill itself. That if a child with a disability in the first year gets a voucher, every child in that family is also automatically eligible for a voucher as soon as they become school age ready. That's how it balloons so rapidly. So as comptroller, I can get in there, I can immediately say, y'all, this thing is a runaway train. It's going to close down your school districts in your Republican districts because we will not be able to continue funding the compression as well as the voucher. And so you choose, do you want to keep compressing the property tax or do you want to subsidize private school tuition? Because you can't do both. And you certainly can't get rid of the M&O on property tax. The state's too reliant on property tax to get rid of it. Yeah.
Quick.
Maintenance and operation portion of the tax, of the property tax. So Cities and counties is probably easier. Cities, counties, and school districts is easier to see. The maintenance and operation portion of your property tax is those ongoing obligations, things like personnel, your ongoing investments, the things you must do for maintenance and operation. And then you've got your debt service portion of the property tax. So those are two separate pieces. So what Huffines is saying is you can still have the debt portion, so but you can't have the maintenance and operation portion. That doesn't make any sense.
Pay on the debt that's for kids that don't understand.
Right, so you can still issue bonds to build a stadium, but you can't pay your teachers.
Cost are what's paying not just school districts, but the county officials, the local, like fire department, police department, road construction.
That's right. So it's
Road maintenance.
unclear what his proposal is with regard to the non-school portion of the property tax.
Okay.
But it is very clear that he wants to, and he has said this, he wants to investigate local governments like counties and cities and put them in jail. That is a direct quote. I am not joking.
For what?
He doesn't have the authority to investigate cities and counties or put anybody in jail. That's not what a comptroller does. And frankly, having been 22 years in local government as a county official, I can tell you there's not much fat there since they've got us down to a cut and cap of 3.5% over effective. So what that means is in high growth counties, you can't raise the tax to get ahead of your growth. You're constantly in a catch-up.
Yeah.
And if you have a flood, if you have a fire, if you have a drought, it's gonna take a long time to recover locally because of the cut and cap at 3.5%.
Yes.
I was the chair of the policy committee of the Conference of Urban Counties when I was county judge, and spent a lot of time with the Texas Association of Counties and the Texas Municipal League. The 3.5% cap is a big problem, and in normal times, most local governmental entities don't go above 3.5 because that hovers right around where your GDP growth is anyway. And so under normal times, counties and cities and school districts don't really go much higher than 3.5. Oftentimes they go much lower. If you've got sort of a stagnant year and you're not seeing a whole lot of growth and there's no reason to go above your effective, you might just stay at effective and let the property valuation growth keep your coffers at an appropriate level. And local officials, they don't want to raise your taxes too high because you're going to get them in the grocery store and give them what for, right? I mean, I've had it happen, standing there with a carton of ice cream, having somebody yell at me in the grocery store, and I'm like, my ice cream is melting, can we finish this conversation, please? So local officials rarely are going to gouge you on your property taxes because they're going to hear from you because they are your friends. Your kids play together. You go to the same grocery store. So this political zeal by a state government so heavily reliant on property taxes, it's a perfect political message. It's a really sinister policy move. They complain of property taxes and say your locals are to blame. Who was it who created these local governmental entities and gave them only property tax? The state. And why did the state create these local governmental entities and give them property taxing authority? So that these local entities could do their job for them. She is extremely smart and savvy. Frankly, she should have been lieutenant governor. She cut a bad deal with the LG back in the day to be finance chair, and he would be the LG. And then he went back and was promised not to mess with her. So Jane gets appointed to Secretary of State, and I'm like, phew, thank goodness, at least it's a capable person, and she's gonna whip that office into shape, and we won't have problems with our voter rolls. But I'll tell you, this highly capable woman clearly was on some strict orders to do this, that, and the other. She was instructed to be incompetent. That woman is not incompetent. So when the Secretary of State was incompetent, at pushing out the new precinct lines and the voter roll based on those new precinct lines, it was not because Jane was incompetent, it was because Jane was instructed to slow roll. And she has said yes to her assignments, but I strongly suspect she got told that she would institute, outside the legal process, a Republican-only voting system for the fall. And she said, I can't do that. That's not legal. Now, I'm speculating here, but I know Jane. And I strongly suspect that she was given an assignment that she would not do. And therefore, she's taking retirement. And unfortunately, I believe that her competency can be placed with Schatzline. Schatzline doesn't need to be told to be incompetent.
What are the concerns over this, or are there any?
There are deep concerns that the Secretary of State will be intentionally incompetent in November. And we don't quite know how that's going to manifest. But this is a legitimate concern that the Secretary of State's office will be intentionally incompetent in November. And that's why our county clerks are crucial in this election. And in my experience of the county clerks all across the state of Texas, Republican or Democrat, they don't care about party. They just want to run a clean election. 254 counties, 254 county clerks. They all just want to run a clean and fair election. And so it's going to be really, really important that we have their backs, Republican or Democrat, to run a good, clean election in November. That's why our local parties are so important right now. We are on the front lines. And y'all are so, so important.
So I had one question before we move on to some of the other candidates we have here.
Oh yeah, I'm talking way too much.
No, you're fine. So I had the question of, as comptroller, would you say that legalizing marijuana would help us economically in Texas?
Oh, 100%.
Okay.
So listen, there are, you know, whether you like pot or whether you don't like pot. Pot is a commodity that exists in Texas, whether it is in the form of THC or CBD. It is an industry that is here and it's here to stay. We must regulate and appropriately tax industry in the state of Texas. If we ignore that the industry is happening, then we are not appropriately regulating it or appropriately taxing it for the benefit of Texas. So actually, the THC, CBD industry is potentially a wonderful revenue source, an excellent revenue source for us. And we've seen this in TCUP, the Texas Compassionate Use Program. We can appropriately regulate and appropriately tax THC products that are hugely beneficial to the population. Unfortunately, we have so few TCUP certified dispensaries that only very small populations in the state of Texas actually get the benefit from TCUP. TCUP is a good program. It should be statewide. And we should have a clear regulatory regime for the private sector to enter this market on a level playing field. And we would have a tremendous tax boon from it too. That's been proven up in states that have legalized the hemp, THC, and CBD industry.
Danny Minton is a healthcare professional, journalist, and candidate for U.S. Congress in Texas CD6. He is also a graduate of what I like to consider Harvard of the Midwest, also center of the college football universe in Norman, Oklahoma, the University of Oklahoma. He's worked in women's health care and consultative sales, and has spent more than 25 years as a journalist and reviewer. Raised in a working class family in Oklahoma, as we all are in Oklahoma, he says that those roots help shape his belief in compassion, personal responsibility, and practical problem solving. He is running to advocate for working families, expand healthcare access, and support small businesses, and move beyond partisan gridlock. Good luck with that, especially that. And solutions that put everyday Texans first. Danny, I'll let us.
All right, so he already gave my entire platform, so that's fantastic. It's less for me to speak, and it's pretty awesome. I had Sarah open up for me, so that's great. Thank you. You did a wonderful job. I'm only going to take about twice as long. So I'm Danny, running for U.S. House of Representatives. I plan on unseating Jake Elzy come November 3rd. You know, as he said, I work in healthcare. Right, I was counting the number of surgeries I did in the month of May, or participated in. And you know, I work in breast cancer surgery, and I was in surgery with about 30 women that month. And when you run the numbers, what I figured out is 7 of these women, according to the statistics, are either going to go bankrupt or deplete their entire financial resources because they were in that surgery, because they have to go through treatment afterwards. That's the average, right? 1/4 of every patient who has cancer in this country depletes their financial resources or goes bankrupt. That's the kind of healthcare system we have. We're the only developed nation in the world that does that to our citizenry, right? And there's a number of other statistics that you all know, and these just make you sick when you try to think about them. And so one of the things that I want to do, you know, when we talk about affordability is important. We have a crisis right now, right? But it's not just gas, it's not just eggs, it's not just transportation. It's also healthcare. If you have to choose between your premium and your mortgage or your rent, we have a big problem in this country. We just got our premium bill. We had to re-up our insurance for the next month. And for the same exact plan that I was on last year that they screwed me over on, it went up an entire $400 more per month for the exact same plan. This plan, I mean, we're paying, they want $2,400 out of pocket from me. My employer pays more. When we go to the doctor, we're paying almost everything out of pocket until we hit an incredibly high deductible. When I go to the pharmacy, Mark Cuban's giving me more money towards my prescriptions than my insurance company is, because GoodRx is actually better than Blue Cross Blue Shield, right? These things are things that we have to change in this country. So the affordability crisis gets, I think, tremendously better once we can give our citizenry Medicare for all. So I firmly believe in that. On top of that, we have to focus on data centers. I believe in a full moratorium on data centers right now until we find out what they do to the environment. We do the right studies to find out exactly what is going on there, because we just don't know enough. Our wonderful governor is just giving these billionaires ability to come in and do whatever they want, wherever they want. Hey, just buy the ranch, you can tap into our water supply. Oh, it's a closed loop system, but we have no idea what happens to that water when they have to dispose of it. We know that these things sound like jet airlines for miles for the citizens that live around them. We know the agriculture suffers for miles around these data centers, so we have to do something about that. And then, you know, I'm in science, right? My degree is epidemiology. You know, that's what I studied, zoology and epidemiology at the great University of Oklahoma, like Robert said. The screwworm is freaking horrifying, and we dodged it, right? We actually came in and said, let's get rid of the programs that monitor this stuff throughout Central and South America so they can easily come across the border. And so now we have to contend with that too. We need to reinstall USAID. We need to do all these things that have been done to us that could have long-term ramifications for our community. So yeah, I appreciate your support. We have a little more than 4 months to go before I think the election. I have the math in my head. That's my quick math. I went to OU, so believe me, math is not an emphasis. Sorry, I make fun of my school too. It's okay. We do have great football.
Texas last year.
Yeah.
No. I appreciate y'all's support, and I look forward to working with all of you. I think we have such a really tremendous amount of great candidates, and we're all going to be working together, where I think there were so many holes and gaps in the ballot in previous years, and the more we work together, we can actually get this thing done. we're gonna earn our blue wave in November. And so thank you very much for your support, and I look forward to working with you. If you want to volunteer, I have a sign-up sheet too. People who want to do door knocking or phone baking or all these things, we're going to be organizing those efforts. We're going to be working with our other candidates also here to work together. But please get on my list. Go to my website, DannyMinton.com. You can volunteer, you can donate, you can send it around to your friends. And my socials, Danny for Texas on everything, right? Facebook, Instagram. Apparently I have to get on Meow Meow. I don't know what that is, but but I'm on all the socials with Danny for Texas. So please follow me. Even if you don't necessarily like my clip, hopefully you do, because I think I put a lot of work into them. But like them, share them, because the algorithms hit, and all of a sudden that really does make a difference in the community. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Michael Myers. Mr. Myers is the Democratic candidate for Texas House District 10 to replace the most reprehensible bastard in. My words, not his. My words, not his. He is focused on strengthening public education, supporting economic growth, protecting local communities, and ensuring responsible government that works for everyday Texans. With more than 30 years of service in the Army and Air Force Exchange Services, he built a career centered in integrity, accountability, and leadership. He retired as Chief of Loss Prevention, overseeing operations across the Pacific region, and later served as Worldwide Director of Safety, responsible for the safety, health, and environment concerns of more than 50,000 employees. Mr. Myers?
I didn't know Texas is the way to go.
Well, I'm here now.
Hey guys, thank y'all for being here. I just want to give you a quick update of what we're doing in this campaign. Of course, environmental issues with the data centers, frontline with me. Of course, education is a major issue for Texas. Our schools are definitely starving for lack of funding. Another issue that we've come to look at is the state government has taken away a lot of the control away from the cities and the counties. They're pulling that control back and limiting the what the cities and counties can do with these data centers. It's not a well-known fact, but the reason you're seeing all these data centers going up is because you can't stop them. You know that if a landowner in Texas wants to sell their land to somebody, there's no way to stop it. He can sell it whether he wants to. Generally paying a little more than the value of that land. Once that land is zoned, and once there's a deal to buy it, is set up, they cannot go back and rezone that land and stop it. That's why you're seeing all this stuff. You may have heard about Red Oak, all those hundreds of citizens trying to stop that data center from going up there on that 827 acres of land. Red Oak City Council was pretty much powerless to stop it. If they had voted no, they would have gotten sued. That happened down here in Bell County. They passed, had a data center they wanted to go up. The county said no, they weren't going to do it. And immediately, within a week or two, they were facing a $100 million lawsuit. And that quickly got changed. And they were going to lose that hands down. There's no need even trying to fight it. So until we change the laws in the state legislature, the Senate, and we get a Democratic government in Austin, we're going to be subject to these data centers. There's just nothing we can do about it. I don't like them. I wish we could stop it. If I get up there, that's going to be one of my themes. I do have a big background in environmental. I do understand what they do to the environment. Water usage, power usage, how does it affect the wildlife, a whole range of issues that need to be dealt with. I want to tell you a little about what we're doing on this campaign too. We're starting to move into adult living communities. We're going into apartment complexes, meeting with anybody that will get two or more together. We're trying to talk to them. We think that the senior citizens are big, underserved area. Not only do they deserve to know what's going on, they need to be able to make an informed decision on what they want to vote for. Generally, these folks are Republican. So we're trying to flip it. I figured out based on some numbers that I've gotten hold of, if we can change 5 to 8% of the Republicans come over to the Democrat side, we probably can flip this county. That's what we're trying to do. So not only are we talking to people that need to know, we're trying to turn them to bring them into us. Does anybody have any questions about what's going on? Terry, of course, is still bossing me around. She's my campaign manager. I have a small staff that's working with me, pretty smart people. One of my videos went viral, I understand.
10,000 views on TikTok.
I don't know how. Apparently it did. It was on education. Yes, ma'am.
I have a comment more than a question, but for you and Danny here to add to your want to research and want to deal with, how is the AI structure, how are the AI structures affecting the environment, is the sound waves. We know that they're loud, but sound waves, sound travels in waves. And so my daughter was telling me that in the rural areas where the AI data centers have already been erected, the number of stillbirths from cattle are noteworthy. And so how are those, not just it's annoying sound, but how are those sound waves going to be affecting both the natural environment, but also like in Red Oak, the human environment when we're
I have
possibly
heard
living
people-
so close by.
Even children.
I spoke a little bit
Yes.
at the
Yeah.
Red Oak protest. I've heard people saying that they can literally hear those vibrations coming off of that thing. I don't think that's real common, but these subsonic noises are definitely affecting wildlife. Birds, you know, they will stay away from it. I mean, they will go away from it. I haven't heard the stillbirth thing in cattle. It's the first I've heard of that.
So
I'll find out.
one of the things that, you know, and Clayton Tucker's been talking about this, and he's a big proponent for us in the state of Texas, but it's about impact studies. So that's why we need a moratorium on data centers until we know what these impacts are, because they're just running roughshod. It's the Wild West. They can do whatever they want, and we have to stop them from doing what they want, so that we know if there is an impact like that, then we need to put these in places where it won't have that same impact. They don't care. You know, that's not something that Governor Abbott and Patrick, they get the money and they allow these things to happen, and then I'm assuming that's how it happens, Sarah, right? And then all of a sudden.
Department of State Health Services
Yeah.
and the Texas Commission on Environmental Quality should have been tasked with this, you know, years ago, to
Yeah.
take a look
Yeah.
at what, if any, impact there is from a health perspective and from an environmental perspective, before we started giving tax breaks like candy to these data centers. I mean, we should have a Department of State Health Services looking into the public health ramifications if
Yeah.
there are any. But there's been no request of dishes to take a look at subsonic effects in agriculture or in human population.
And
They
these
won't touch it unless there's specific.
Now, I will tell you, this is why Republicans are as against this as Democrats, because a lot of these ranchers are Republicans, and they're seeing it, and they're hearing horror stories about it. And there are a lot of Republicans that are going to vote Democrat just to keep this from happening, because right now the current Republican class doesn't care.
and these tax
Except that-
abatements-
Leadership class.
Except that what Danny is saying, there's no rule right now to stop them
That's right.
if they is zoned, and you said if it's already zoned this way and they bought the property, what is the zoning? Is it just zoned commercial,
My
zoned
understanding
industrial?
is, and Sarah, you may know more.
They're
It's
usually
agricultural
unincorporated.
or commercial. And it's already zoned, they cannot go back after they have some kind of a contract agreement to buy that land. They cannot go back and rezone it. And
Yeah,
that's
it's-
why these things are passing. All the cities around Texas.
And it's zoned commercial?
Well,
or
if it's inside
industrial?
city limits, and usually they locate in unincorporated areas where there is no zonings. The state does not allow counties to zone. So that's the reason why, in some instances, these data centers are inside city limits, and oftentimes they will get a piece of property that's owned by the city
If it's
itself.
unincorporated,
But if it's
there's
in the
no-
unincorporated portion of the county, there is no zoning, and we're a property rights state. So, barring a state law, Counties cannot prevent a property owner from doing whatever they want on their property. And there is no state law that curtails the operation of data centers.
Well, unless, you can do whatever you want on your property unless it falls
Sell it
outside the rules of TCEQ, because I do know about that, but
You can,
The subsonic
so
sound is
residents
not.
who are impacted, and that is a legislatively defined group of residents. Residents who are impacted can request contested permit hearings at TCEQ, yes.
And I think the impact is, 200 feet or something from the
Yes.
center, which is nothing. Also, the tax abatements, they do have some control over the tax abatements. But, did y'all hear about the Ellis County animal thing that they're fixing to build? That's just property. So, they're asking for a big tax abatement here in Ellis County. They're gonna vote on it on June 22nd. In the meantime, I think it's Google who's supposed to build this thing out here, decided that they would give the county $15 million to build an animal shelter, state-of-the-art animal shelter, which is sorely needed,
But,
but they gotta get the tax abatement. which
so,
I don't know where the
talking
balance of the money is.
about animals, what sort of legislation would you want to propose in Austin in regards to animal cruelty and animal rights?
Interesting, Brian Harrison voted against every animal rights and animal care bill in the Senate in the last couple of years. Every one, even animal cruelty. He didn't even vote on that one, although I verified he was in Austin, he could have voted, he just said no. I don't know what's wrong with that guy. I think some of it had to do with, he is a breeder of labradoodles, and he did not want any kind of state interference with his breeding going on. In fact, he introduced a bill to exempt dog breeders from state oversight of dog breeding. I'm just telling you, I think it's billed to $70,000. So, we need to take care of the animals. I am an animal lover. I got one. I'm embarrassed to tell you how spoiled that dog is. But we need to continue on taking care of our animals. We need to pump some money into it. We might even need to submit a bill. If you're a convicted animal cruelty, maybe we need to have a bill to put you in a register, like child abuse. I mean, I know it's a different level, but maybe we need to do that. And we need to connect that bill to the breeders. And
Has that sort of thing been done in other states?
It's been done in other states, but there is no national bill yet. It goes to the AKC registrations. Why don't we have something?
The National Animal Cruelty Register, that would be interesting.
Yeah, just think about that. If you're on the register, would you buy a dog from somebody like that? Probably not. You put them out of business quick. And if they've been convicted of it, they don't need to be dealing with animals. So anyway, this campaign is going on. We are moving. Hope y'all will continue to support us. So far, it's been pretty well. So, y'all take care. Thank you for the help.
Woohoo!
Our next, and last and certainly not least, our good friend, Dr. OJ. Dr. OJ is a candidate for Ellis County Commissioner Precinct 4, as well as an educator, entrepreneur, author, speaker, and founder of the Honey Drops Foundation. We have to really narrow this down for Dr. OJ. I can just speak about what she does. A veteran educator with Dallas ISD, she has also led programs focused on youth development, domestic violence prevention, financial empowerment, and mental health. Her campaign emphasizes community engagement, safer roads and school crossings, infrastructure and drainage improvements, transparent budgeting, and responsible growth that protects the quality of life for Ellis County families. Ladies and gentlemen,
Hi everyone. So on the 23rd of this month, the Ellis County Commissioners Court is going to be meeting, right? And I was just kind of thinking about because I'm going to make a point to go there, because they're going to be talking about this whole tax abatement thing and how to approve it. $15 million already received. So my question to the Commissioner's Court, I'm running against Kyle Butler, by the way, and I'm going to address this to him. Since Red Oak is within his precinct, and if he's not going to do anything to protect the people that I don't think they voted him in, actually. I mean, he's just been there for 15 years, and he's been there consistently. And my question to him is, for whatever money you're receiving, that they're paying you, what are the people paying for that? Because the taxpayers are going to be paying something for that. For all of the tax abatement that you're giving, or you're hoping or proposing to give these organizations, what are the taxpayers in Ellis County getting in return? What abatements are you proposing for the actual taxpayers who elected you into office? So those are some of the questions that I'm hoping that they can take some time to think about while we run our race in the election. So I'm running for Ellis County Commissioner, representing Precinct 4. My name is Dr. OJ.
Woohoo!
You know, I got into this race not because it was something that was easy or convenient, but because it became necessary for someone to stand up and speak up for a community where I live. I'm raising my kids, and I'm hoping that we can be here for a long time. But in the time that we have been in Ellis County, I've noticed that property taxes go just gradually, every year keeps going up and up and up. And I have seen a lot of neighbors that we moved into the communities together, a lot of them eventually now have moved out because they're not able to afford the property taxes anymore, as amazing as Ellis County is. So one of the things that I really want to focus on, or the top 3 things that I'm going to focus on, is transparency in budgeting. You know, all of the things that we talk about with the data centers, it really comes down to the money. If you really want to know what's driving anything, follow the money. Where is all of the money in Ellis County coming in? Where is it going to? We need to know. We talk about building a state-of-the-art animal shelter. That is amazing. We need it. But is all of that money going to that project? And if it is, then what are we paying in return? Because if what we're paying in the form of allowing these data centers to move in is higher in premium than what they're given, then I don't think it's worth it. I think we can raise money for an animal shelter other ways. That's my own proposition, or that would be my proposition as a county commissioner. If we can find another way to solve our problems, rather than create bigger problems where the data centers come in, our waters become at risk, our land definitely becomes at risk, livestock becomes at risk, and we don't even know yet what the risk is to human health. No one has done the research. I'm not going to stand here and tell you that AI is bad, because I utilize AI technology in my work, in my everyday life, in my business. However, I think we need to be responsible enough to understand that this technology is moving at the speed of AI. But we cannot, as humans, keep giving away the resources to maintain these data centers at that same speed. We need to slow down to do some research to find out who is really going to benefit from this and who is going to get hurt in the long run. 20, 30 years, 50 years from now, we're all gone, our kids are here. What kind of mess are we leaving behind for them to clean up? Because we have made a decision to put data centers in neighborhoods where they're going to be growing up. So those are some of the conversations I believe we should be having at the Commissioner's Court, and hopefully that gets them thinking a little bit, because I don't think they're thinking right now. Now, another thing that I'm running my campaign on is community inclusion, just making sure that Ellis County is run by Ellis County. I know that we elect officials to make decisions for us, but are we really, really in the process with them? Do we even know what decisions are being made that affects every one of us around our kitchen tables? You know, we talk about, of course, we have all of our amazing candidates top down, but when it comes down to the things that affects you and I every single day, those are the things that happens on the county level. Every single decision made on the county level is what affects how we live our lives on a daily basis. So we should be very mindful of understanding how that happens. And I am hoping that by the time I become county commissioner, we can have more community engagement in that process, so that our people know why they put us there and what benefits they're getting. and they can be a part of the process with us. I'm not saying they're going to tell us how to do our jobs. No, by no means. We will do what we are elected to do based on what the office requires. However, the people, the community, the constituents that we are serving, they get to understand with us how that happens. So if we come up and say, well, taxes are going up, they can understand, well, that makes sense because we have seen some of the choices and the decisions. We have seen how that decision was made to affect our bottom line. So we are okay with it. I think democracy is about that. And where we're missing it currently is someone is sitting in an office somewhere, starting a war, doing all kinds of things, handing out vouchers, and nobody has a right to question that. And we all have to live with the underlying symptoms of it. Public schools, all my kids go to public schools. My son just graduated from a public school. If public schools get defunded and they eventually go away, a lot of people will suffer. Single parent homes like mine will definitely suffer. Right now, it's not really about how much money you're making anymore. You can be making a lot of money. However, you have to decide what gets your allocation every month. If I have to send my kids to a private school, then I cannot afford to feed them. So is that a decision we really want Texas to get to? So we really have to be mindful. So I'm running on these things: integrity, transparency, and inclusion, so that we can truly work together to build an Ellis County that we can be proud of 10 years from now. And I think it's time to bring in some new blood. Some people have just been in that office. My opponent has been there for 15 years, like I said. That does not automatically disqualify him. However, the results that we're getting disqualifies him from continuing to stay on there.
Right.
And I'm hoping that I get a lot of votes. And of course, y'all know that our campaigns run on a lot of funding, so I need help. My campaign needs financial help. So if you'll be so kind to support Dr. OJ Speaks for Texas.com, you can make your donations on there. I'm on ActBlue, every social media, Dr. OJ Speaks. Follow me, and you'll be able to learn more about my campaign and how things are going. Currently, we've been knocking on doors, and we're going to keep knocking on doors. I just received some of my literature and some yard signs and stuff. That was like over 1,000, easy, gone just like that. So we really need money to keep coming in so that we can have the outreach to get through this election in November. But the last thing is, we need to do more in educating our folks, our neighbors. The Voting Rights Act is real, y'all. I know we haven't really spoken about it, but the Supreme Court just literally gutted the Voting Rights Act. So right now, a lot of states are doing what they need to do, especially the Republican states, to start redistricting, because now there's nobody that's going to stop them from doing it. No court is going to stop them. They can literally start redistricting. And what that means is we still vote, but our votes don't carry the same power it would if we don't do anything about it. So let's educate folks to ensure that they check their voting, that they're registered to vote. Even if they voted in the last election, even if they voted in the primaries, let's do well as we are campaigning, as we are reaching out, as we are door knocking. Educate folks to please get out there, check your voting registry, make sure it's updated, and make sure that you have all of the documents, especially if you are in a minority skin like mine. Make sure, I'm just being real, y'all. Make sure that you have all the necessary documents to vote. Last but not the least, if you get to the polls and anybody tries to turn you away, do not get turned away. Let people know they don't have to get turned away. They can actually stay there and get information that ensures that they are still able to vote. So this is what is going to make the difference. We can campaign all we can. We can do all of the cooperation and the coordination. When we get to the ballots in November and people are not showing up, then it would be for nothing. So that is the most important part of this year's election. To flip this state, it's going to require a lot of work in educating folks and getting them ready. So while we're campaigning, let's help them get ready so they know that they can get out there and do what is necessary to flip this state. So they can take the government back. It's all about giving the government back to the people. I don't believe in elected officials who want to get in there and just sit down and be like, now I'm in charge. No, we're not in charge. We are going out there to serve. I mean, I could be home with my kids. I'm sure Danny could be home doing something else, but we are here. We're putting ourselves out there. We're in the line of fire, like people coming for us and saying all kinds of things. However, it doesn't matter. It matters that we get in there, we serve our community, and we create transformational change. So guys, my name is Dr. OJ. Remember that name. Tell all your friends about it. Donate to my campaign. See you at the polls. Thank you so much.